Hello and welcome to the Corporate Jet Investor Podcast. This week, we're absolutely delighted to be joined by Anthony Tivnan from Magellan. How are you?
Doing excellent. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
And I always worry about whether it's Magellan or Magellan, but I think I got it right.
In Europe and abroad, it's usually Magellan, but the pronunciation is Magellan Jets. Yes.
And take us through what Magellan does.
So Magellan is an asset-light aviation solution platform. We do on-demand charter. We do jet cards, both standard category jet cards as well as 3 aircraft-specific jet cards. We do aircraft sales and management through the platform, and we just recently launched about 60 days ago our first fractional program.
Really quickly, take us through the fractional.
So the fractional is a very specific. It's only offered on the Challenger 850 through a joint venture with Slate as the operating partner and certificate. So it's on the Challenger 850, which is a fantastic heavy cabin aircraft, outstanding luggage. It's great for golf trips, family trips, corporate travel, absolutely, due to its size. And they're all re-outfitted. I believe there's 2 in service currently, and over the next 15 months, about 2 aircraft will come into service each month and bring it to a total of, I believe, 34 aircraft, in which we're selling four fractions on each of those aircraft.
So that's decent size very quickly.
It is a amazing size. And when you think of the value and the economics on the 850, very efficient aircraft. But the economics to be in a heavy jet cabin are just absolutely outstanding. But yeah, it's about the size, maybe a slight larger than a global. So outstanding cabin space, and luggage is phenomenal as well.
So the business when people think of jet cards or charter, there's obviously been some technological advances in the last, 15 years. We've had Avinode, we've had lots of people trying to do online platforms, but you guys really are committed to tech, aren't you?
Yeah. So, it's definitely evolved in the last 10 years. And, I think that there's certainly more innovation to come. The way the consumer, there's so many choices for consumers now, and, flexibility is really important to consumers. As technology continues to advance, I think speed and being able to get what they want, get the information that they want, and get the service that they want. And then the other big piece of that is communication in a timely manner, in an easy manner, which I think is something that, we're super focused on. Is just, the flexibility has kind of always been our mantra of one of our service offerings, is just flexible solutions. But, certainly speed and just great resources for clients to engage with our folks. And a lot of that is certainly driven through technology. And, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, technology is going to continue to play a larger and larger role in the client experience.
And how are you using AI today?
So that's a big question. Our AI journey really started probably about 2.5 years ago. As we looked at how do we create more efficiencies, more speed in delivering clients with pricing, the ability to go through a booking process, the ability to have all the data at their fingertips in terms of itineraries, FBOs, update catering, passengers, et cetera. The first step to that was we acquired the Stellar platform in 2023. We spent a lot of money in investments in building out our tech team and the tech platform, and then integrating that into Magellan. And kind of the first iteration of that integration was through our consumer facing platforms. That's the apps, the online portals. So that was kind of the first step. And then, when you think about, AI, it's such a broad statement, and, most people's head goes straight to like a chat GTP or one of the LLMs. And we're all kind of drinking from a fire hose, I think. And, we're no different. I think at the offset, maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, it kind of starts with leadership, reading an article about AI and, running down and saying, hey, we got to do this AI thing. And kind of getting everybody in 15 different directions. And that's probably where our journey started. But we were able to kind of hone that in. And about a year ago, our entire leadership team, some of the senior leaders and some of the managers, we took a 10-week AI course that was offered through YPO, which me and my business partner Joshua are members of. And that really helped us to kind of get our minds and really hone us in on, what AI was and the capabilities, how fast it's evolving and how fast it's moving. And then, the other step is really just slowing down and figuring out kind of where to start, because, every facet, every vertical of the business, there's applications for AI and opportunities for AI. But, when it's really, honing down, because if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority, and you can't work on procurement, sales, marketing, data analytics, finance, and that's what we wanted to do, right? Because it's exciting and there's tons of opportunity there. But, we really kind of slowed the train down and got some consulting work on AI done that helped us to create project plans, launched a AI champions committee internally. And then in January of 2025, we hired a head of AI and VP of product innovation to really own, the project plan. So we started shotgun fast, probably like everybody does. And then we really, really slowed the process down and got very targeted in our approach of, what opportunities do we want to prioritize, and, and what do we want to do first? So that was probably one of the smartest things we did. And, it's been really paying off today, and the capabilities and some of the things that are available to our colleagues. And, that's the other thing, is there's a lot of client facing opportunities that are, easy to get excited about. But, we really looked at, okay, let's really kind of walk before we run here, and start with some internal efficiencies, and, how do we get more productivity out of our employees? So that's kind of where we're at now with it.
That's a massive investment, though. Just having the senior management on a 10-week course, then hiring a head of AI. I'm guessing that not many business aviation companies have hired a specialist AI person this early.
Yeah, not that I have heard. And I talk with a lot of the CEOs of our competitors, of our vendors, and just kind of, we all share insights and how the business is going. I believe it's an extremely important investment. A lot of times with tech, it's kind of that, it's a tough investment, because it's a downstream effect of, when you're going to realize that ROI, when you're actually going to be able to see the ROI. And, a lot of the data and a lot of the surveys on companies that have made major investments in AI, one of the biggest detractors right now is just really being able to quantify the ROI. It's not like you spend $1 in marketing and you get $2.50 back. So it's really about understanding, what success looks like, and patience, I'd say, is another big piece of that.
Did you get much pushback from people internally going, this is a people business, it's not a robot business?
Absolutely. Adoption, and adoption and change management are that's really one of the first steps in implementing AI, because again, it's like top down, back top, process, because the one of the stigmas around AI, as you're alluding to, is it going to replace people, and is it going to replace my job? And one of the things that we're very adamant about, and had to continuously educate on, is like, AI is not going to replace people. Long term, I think it's not so much AI replaces people; it's people who understand how to use AI will replace those that don't. And it's no different than when Excel launched. Today you couldn't imagine somebody in your finance department not knowing how to use Excel and run formulas and pivot tables. It wouldn't even make sense. And I would say 3, 5, 7 years from now, we're going to look at that same example as folks using AI, because there's just so many applications. So that was a big piece. We had to certainly get middle management, senior management, and really educate them, get them involved in some training courses around AI. Developing the AI team was highly effective, because they went in a lot slower than kind of us with this big picture idea, and sat with different departments and the leaders in different departments, and just wanted to understand, hey, where are the bottlenecks? What's slowing down your process? Tell me about the tasks that you're doing that, are taking a lot of time, and maybe taking away from other more important or more, high touch level tasks. And then once you give some folks, different tools that are clearly making their job easier, not replacing their job, that was I think a big aha moment for a lot of folks. And how we look today in terms of adoption and is completely different than how we looked a year and a half ago. When we were in the training courses, it was a lot of the is this going to replace this? Is it going to replace that? So it's a lot of education. It's a lot of transparency, and certainly a lot of training, and making sure that, the same tools and things that we're seeing, that we're educating folks at all levels in the business. And a lot of the tools that we use today are frontline tools, around data analytics, around small tasks. Training has been, if I had to think of one of the highest impact ROI uses of AI for us today, it's really about training and onboarding, which, we've become extremely efficient. And just the tools that new employees have, training modules, videos, that's been a huge pickup for us.
And do your customers know that you're using it? Are you hiding it from them, or are they just getting better service without realizing?
So that's a great question. I think a lot of our customers are a lot of business leaders, a lot of large companies. So I believe they're taking the same journey themselves. And I talk to a lot of customers about it. It always comes up. Like, you can't sit at a table of CEOs and get through a conversation without AI not coming up. And it's like, we don't have AI like talking to clients or anything like that. In terms of like responses and interactions, we've done a lot of piloting and a lot of testing with that. Where we are, it could be there, but we're not there. And how we're looking at it is, how do we take the tasks that are keeping our client experience teams away from interacting with the customer human to human, as opposed to the the other side of that coin would be like, how do you take that human interaction and automate it, right? But that's not where we're at in the journey.
You've invested a lot of time and money in this. Do you worry that AI is improving so quickly that the things you're doing now will be out of date?
I 100% did, and that's 100% what was happening. And that was a big motivation for bringing in, a specific team, starting with the leadership. And because if you don't have somebody focused on it, so, that's somebody's job, right? And then they have a team of two to support them in that endeavor. But it's AI is not something that, myself as a leader can read a couple articles, read a book, listen to a podcast, and then come back to it a month later, because a month later there's been so much innovation between those weeks. And so it's something that has to be somebody's full-time focus. And the way that I look at it is you either need to be all in or all out, because if you're kind of in, if you're dipping your toe, by the time you get something to the finish line, it may not even be relevant anymore. Two, there might be something better anyway.
So stepping back, how do you think the jet card and brokerage market will look in 5-10 years because of technology? Like the death of the small charter broker has been forecasted so many times. And I know you're one of the bigger players, and you can afford, you've got the scale to be able to be a first mover. Do you think that we're going to see a big reshaping of the charter market?
I do, and that's something that we've been thinking about for years. Of like, what is going to be, kind of the killer of a certain product line. I think jet cards are a little bit different from that regard. But, when you look at the way that consumers expect things, I had the same conversation with someone last week. And the example I gave was 15, 20 years ago, we would call a cab company, talk to them, hang up the phone, wait 15 minutes till you hear the horn outside and go get in the cab. And that was acceptable. And today, when we hit an Uber, if we're waiting 4 minutes, like, we're frustrated. So the consumers, what we have access to and the way that we consume things, whether it's delivery services, transportation services, it's evolved. And, the private aviation industry, I think, is a little bit slow to evolve with it. Certainly on the private side. So I think charter will change. I think clients are going to continue to expect a faster process in terms of, being able to put a quote, enter a routing into a app, receive pricing right there, and, be able to process that, add passengers. I mean, the traditional way of charter is, it could take anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours to run that process A to Z, where you have itinerary, FBOs, everything in hand. And, we believe that process should really take no more than 5 minutes. That's the direction that we're headed in, and we'll be there pretty soon.
It's funny. Do you know the story about Paul Toh, the founder of Stellar, where he was in a chat room talking about queuing theory or something with another guy, and they were chatting, an online chat room, and the other guy was going, what are you working on? And he said, I'm doing business jet optimization. And the other guy went, oh, we're doing limos. And Paul was like, that's not very exciting, but it was one of the Uber guys. And Stellar's tried this. Lots of, it's just so many people who've tried to do the Uber of business aviation. Do you think it's now possible?
I absolutely do think it's possible. I think it's going to take a lot of investment. And, when we look at Stellar, and, we were talking to Stellar, since the very early days. So very familiar with it. And, I think the challenges that Stellar had was, it was the chicken or the egg, right? And is it do you go after the supply aggregation first without having the demand? And we all know our industry is very change management in our industry is very difficult, and getting operators, and it's a clunky, to move systems. It's extremely clunky. It's extremely time consuming and expensive. And to do that without a big motivation of demand behind it, I think was a very difficult task. And, we're looking at it. So the acquisition with Stella with us is a little bit different, where, we, on the Magellan side, we're a demand aggregator, whether it's charter or jet cards. And so we looked at Stellar as, hey, this is a tool and this is a software that can enhance our client experience and also get us to, the conversation that we're talking about right now a lot sooner, of like faster pricing, a platform that's supported by an app that can run the entire process, including payment processing, and passengers stored, where you can just pick passengers per leg, order your catering right there, see where your plane is, receive updates right through the app, receive your itinerary right through the app. So we saw this as something that we could leverage towards for the consumer that we already have, as opposed to leveraging it as a software system for the industry. So our motivation was a little bit different. I think certainly the ideology of how that application or how that software started, I think was in the right direction, but it proved to be an extremely expensive endeavor. And without the demand, kind of driving that, I think that was a very large obstacle for them.
And you launched in 2008, so you guys have got a long history of going out and signing up customers. Do you think that a lot of the people have underestimated how hard it is to build a B2C brand?
I do. And, we've seen it time and time again, through we've had Magellan for 17 years, and I was in the industry another 7 or 8 prior to that. And it's very difficult to do both. It's very expensive to do both, like to run a outstanding operation with, maintenance and crews and just the entire infrastructure that our operator partners have. That's a big task. And, when you look at, a fully functional retail engine, that's also a very complex and complicated task, just from starting at client acquisition. The world and the clients that we serve, it's not a build it and they will come type of service, right? And I wish it was like, I wish people would just go to my website and book flights. But that's not how it happens. And, you have to be fully committed and fully focused, and to fully focus on, client acquisition and an entire funnel. Like, we have SDR teams, in-house 9-person marketing team, people on digital, people on AI, that are helping us to be successful in client acquisition, consumer education, and then ultimately consumer conversion. And then to service that client adds another level of complexity. And to do that and to invest in that type of infrastructure, and then have another side of the house where, you have whatever the number is, 20, 50, 100 aircraft. It's doable. I'd say the big four have proved that it's doable, but it's extremely expensive. So you need to be extremely well capitalized. And a lot of times, as we see, you have to do a lot of recapitalization in order to, get to that point of scale when you're investing in both.
What's next? What else are you've got AI, you've handed that over to someone else. What else are you focused on at the moment?
A lot of focus around, certainly, I think we're at the 5-yard line with with phase 2 of our app. We relaunched the charter app, I believe in April. And we have some amazing things coming in our technology roadmap for Q1. So really excited about that. Supply chain is another thing that's on our mind as an asset light provider, and ensuring no different than when you look at some of the operators in the industry, and you see you're seeing kind of this transformation of fleet types, aircraft types, and as an asset light provider, we need to be doing the same thing. So really focused on our supply chain in terms of quality, in terms of age of aircraft, and ensuring that our products match what our partners have in fleet, and then making sure that we're working together hand in hand in order to deliver on excellence for both brands. And our clients rely on us to really pair the right aircraft with the right mission, and service them well and communicate well, et cetera. And so we spend a lot of time on that. We spend a lot of time with those clients getting feedback, and then on the supply side, we spend a lot of time with our partners and providing feedback. And how do we do this better? How do we make it more efficient? How do we help our partner network work with us more efficient, right? So that what's good for them is good for us. If we can help them be more efficient and reduce the amount of trips that they're quoting, and or even helping them schedule their planes to our trips for them, which we have an in-house scheduling team that does that. Then that's good. That's good for everybody.
Are you finding it easier to source aircraft now? I remember talking to you in the post lockdown boom when it was getting hard. Is it getting easier? And we've just at the fall of 2025 now.
Yeah, I'd say we're just looking at it from a different lens. I don't know. Like, we're looking at it as not so much as easy as in hard, but how do we do it more efficiently, more effectively? How do we optimize schedules better with our partners so that we're being very efficient for our schedule and for theirs? And, when we spoke after the boom, 24 years in the industry, that year and a half, whatever it was really the only time I would ever probably use the word hard when it relates to procurement. Again, we're an asset light provider, 17 years. So 365 days a year, that's what we're doing. So, I think we just see it from a different lens. But we're just looking at how do we do it smarter, and how do we use technology in order to work with our partners better, so that we're not, where we're going to scale, you can never do trip by trip by trip, on hundreds and hundreds and thousands of flights. It's just not, you'll never get to scale that way. So it's, how do we maximize technology, and how do we use technology to certainly concentrate, the partners that we work with that are aligned with the quality that we want to deliver, the service that we want to deliver, the culture, the values that align with us. And then how do we do it in a very, very efficient and effective way so that everybody wins? When
you launched, I seem to remember that one of the metrics you were always keen to focus on was customer retention. That's still one of your top metrics, isn't it?
It is, and it always will be. Client lifetime value. It's. I hate to use the word easy, but it's easier, I'll say, to get a client. It's extremely difficult to keep a client, and client acquisition in our space is extremely expensive and extremely time consuming. We talked a little bit earlier about your sales and your marketing funnel and the engine, and all the different layers and investments that have to take place in order to take that prospect that's interested and turn them into a evangelist, right? Where they're telling their friends and they're using the service and they're loving it. And so the retention piece, and, we really look at even colleagues and employees the same way, like churn is just so expensive. And so keeping clients and, when we look at client lifetime value, for instance, some of the highest client lifetime value accounts are those that have used multiple products within our portfolio. So we may have a jet card owner that's a corporation, and their board meeting is in Europe, right? So they're using the jet card for all the U.S. stuff, and then for their 4 times a year they have their board meetings, and they're using a global or a Gulfstream on a charter for their board meetings over there. So their ability to be able to use different solutions based on what they're trying to accomplish, again, I think gives us the competitive edge, but it also keeps them from looking elsewhere and getting distracted, because they need something and we might not have the solution. And of course, we don't have the solution for everything. And we're very transparent with clients, and we'll always point them in the right direction of where to go. And that's another, I think, big piece of client lifetime value is really the transparency of that's not our area of expertise, but here's what I would recommend. Why don't I make a call for you and connect you? And so it's really about keeping them in the ecosystem so that they have to go outside of it less and less.
And going back to the client renewal rate, you had a lot of new entrants come into the industry during that post-lockdown boom. Have most of those stayed with you?
A lot have. I would say, and I was just looking at these numbers, while many stayed, and certainly, I think from a corporate perspective, we've seen a tremendous uptick post-COVID, as a lot of business owners and CEOs may have started using private aviation on a personal level, and maybe their corporation wasn't, and then just seeing the effectiveness of that helped grow that, and then obviously a lot of routing is getting cut commercially, which make it very challenging for corporate travelers. But probably one of the lowest retention rate years for us was actually 2023. And, we dove into that because it was a dip that, we've never seen before. And a lot of that was, COVID flyers, and our, typically an average jet card for us is running between 12 to 15 months in terms of length. Some of the newer entrants extended that a little bit more, just because they didn't fly as often. But so we saw up to 18, 19 months on some of those jet cards. And that's actually where the dip happened. It was 2023. And a lot of those folks that kind of rushed and bought a jet card, during that post-COVID boom ended up, not wanting to continue on as price, and that was right on the tail end of where the prices really rose. But the nice thing, again, where I think, we have a nice competitive advantage is we're able to offer them something else. I don't want to, the jet card price went up 30%. I don't know if I want to do that. Hey, no problem. We can do a trip by trip basis for you, set you up with a charter account, and you're ready to go. So it was nice to be able to have that segue product for them if that didn't work for their situation going forward.
Just before we started this call, I was talking to Doug Gollan of Private Jet Card Comparisons, and I don't know what his latest number is, but it feels like Doug tracks, I'm going to say 5,000 different people claiming to offer jet cards. I think in reality it's about 200. There is a gap, isn't there, between the big guys and someone who, I could launch a jet card today, couldn't I? The barrier to entry to saying you've got a jet card is very low, isn't it?
To launch a jet card, I guess you could launch a jet card very easily. To execute on a jet card, I think is very difficult. And, we've seen it in the industry time and time again, where people launching a jet card and then they kind of put it on the shelf. The, putting terms and conditions together, that's kind of the easy part. You can go to my website and say, yep, that's what we do, 24-hour notice, and here's the peak days. And that's kind of the easy part. One, the supply chain is a very important piece of it. But the billing, the statements, like we haven't found a technology platform, off the shelf that's been able to support our jet card business. When our jet card client opens their app, they can see how many hours they have left. They can put a trip in and know how many billable hours it's going to take off their account. So there's a lot of back office things that need to happen, like just even the billing, like to run what a trip's going to, like we have automated billing. So it has all the pricing rules, high density airports, peak days, where, our flight ops team, once they put that flight in, or if a jet card owner puts it in through the app, within seconds, they have the entire breakdown of the billable hours and it appears on the app. So some of those I think those are the pieces. It's not so much on the website and, in the terms and conditions, it's what's under the hood is where I think a lot of companies find it extremely challenging to not launch a jet card product, but to maintain one and grow it and be successful at it.
And you do get people promising the world. So are you finding you might lose a customer to someone who's, launched the most amazing jet card with a massive discount and then realize that they never, ever can find them a plane when they want to fly?
Yeah. Well, those are always the interesting ones, right? When you try to educate and you do as much as you can. And I'd say that's a different type of consumer. A big focus of ours is on the corporate, on the corporate side of things, where typically you're working with a corporate flight department or a procurement department. They're doing their due diligence very, very thoroughly. And, that segment of clients usually weed out a lot of the noise that may exist. And they have a track record. So when it's too good to be true, they typically sniff that out immediately. But yeah, I'd say more of the leisure or the newer entrants into the market, some of the gimmicky, types of things, they just might not be privy to because they don't have the longevity of, watching, companies that do that. And, they're here today and they're gone next week. So yeah, but yes, we all kind of get distracted and by the new shiny toy and, chase a couple squirrels around. I do it myself. But, we educate and say, if that's what you want to do, but we will see you when you get back. and nothing's better than when they come back and they say, yep, you were right. Let's keep going.
You guys have always been pretty innovative with your marketing. You've been, you were a challenger when you came out, but now we've got TikTok and Instagram are full of people booking real or fake charter online with a camera. Are you kicking yourself that you didn't put all your money into social media rather than into AI?
Well, absolutely not. Personally, maybe some folks in the company, but I'm not a social media person anyway. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't focus on it or give it attention. But I think AI is, if I'm looking at my own business and the clients that we serve today and the clients that we want to continue to acquire, I think the route of in my business model, right, efficiencies and higher touch service, I think the opportunities on the AI supersede one of our employees running around on a jet, or I think a lot of that, is good entertainment. But, for a lot of the folks that we work with, they're, it's entertaining. I don't know that it's who they want to
deal with,
trust their board of directors, quarterly meetings with. So it's just I guess it's a different approach, just not my approach.
What advice would you give to someone who's, had a little bit of charter a few times? They're thinking about committing to a jet card or to fractional. What would you say to them?
There's a lot of choices out there. One, do your research. The nice thing about where we're at today is that there's a lot of information available online. There's, depending upon the investment levels, it definitely makes sense to take a look under the hood. If it's a company that's in your area, go by and check out the operation and just be wary of, transparency is everything. And at the end of the day, you want to do business with folks that you trust, with folks that are resources, that are experts, that, that really understand and know what they're talking about, especially if you don't, as it relates to private aviation. And, typically if you're considering aviation, you've made some fairly smart choices along your personal journey. And private aviation is definitely a space where I would continue to make those smart choices.
And you've been in the industry a long time. Magellan's been around a long time. What advice would you give to someone who wants to work in business aviation?
I think it's an outstanding industry. I've been in it 24 years and still not sick of it. I continue to learn every day. And the folks that, I am able to work around, are just outstanding individuals, really at all levels. And there's a ton of opportunity. I think it's a great industry to look into. It's a growing industry. The total addressable market continues to grow. And, I think there's, as we were talking about earlier, just in terms of with how technology is evolving, I think that, the industry is going to continue to grow and continue to increase the amount of opportunities. So it's a great industry to get into. Same as the consumer. I would say make smart choices, do your homework, and make sure it's a culture. Any organization that you're going into, you want it to be a culture fit, you want it to be a core values fit, and you want to work with people that you like working with and you enjoy spending time with, because it's private aviation and you're going to spend a lot of time and you're going to be in a lot of high intensity situations, and what better way to do that with people that you like?
Final question. When people hear about AI in businesses, you mentioned this earlier, they often think about job cuts. Do you think that your company in 10 years' time will have more, about the same, or fewer people? We're assuming you're going to keep growing during that time.
Yeah, there's no doubt we'll have more. Just even looking at our 2026, 2027 plan in our 2-year and 3-year budget, it's already factored in. And we have a lot of AI implementation budgeted and in the technology roadmap as well. So the headcount's going to continue to grow. And, I do believe the technology, one, is going to help us to continue to grow our, and that it's really about growing your revenue at a much, much higher pace than your operating expense, right? So, this, again, for us, this isn't a headcount cutting opportunity. This is a revenue increasing opportunity, and then an operating efficiency opportunity. And again, I think our human interaction is going to be better, because rather than our client experience team, going through a 42-point checklist, rather than sitting on the phone and helping a client understand, their routing, or what's the purpose of this flight? Is there anything special going on? It's just going to allow them to get rid of the mundane tasks. So yes, we will be more efficient, but we'll certainly be, from a headcount perspective, it's in the plan, it's happening, and we'll continue to grow.
And it'll be more fun working there, because you won't be doing as much mundane admin.
Absolutely. Yeah. It'll be a lot more fun. Absolutely. I use various AI tools every day, and actually, one of the guys on the tech team grabbed me. Now that you just brought that up, yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and he's taking an AI course. His is a 6-month course, and he was building something in Stellar, and he said, "AT, I got to show you this. I just built this." He said it took me 3.5 hours. And because I was asking him, "Hey, how's your AI course going? What's the biggest learning that you had?" And he said, "I just built this in Stellar. It's part of my project plan, and it took me 3.5 hours." And he said 6 months ago, this would have taken me 2.5 weeks. So the excitement around that for me is just, when we look at a technology roadmap and the things that we want to accomplish, like that guy's going to be here for as long as I can keep him here, because now he's advancing and fast tracking a lot of things that we have in our roadmap. And technology evolves, right? So 2 years from now, we're going to be looking at new technology, and we're going to want people who can, use these different technologies and AI to advance and continue to be more efficient and get us to, the ever so moving goal line just much quicker.
You also want honest people like that. What you don't want is someone who then says, "I'm going to work from home for 2.5 weeks, having done the work in 3 hours."
Yeah. That's a big part of the conversation. But again, it comes down to right people in the right seats, who are a part of the right culture. And he was excited, and he was excited to share this. And I'm sure he ran back to the head of his department and said, "Great, what's next?" Because to me, those are the people that that we want to keep, and we want to keep adding to our team.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Anthony. Anthony, that was awesome. Anthony Tivnan from Magellan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alistair. Great to see you.